Okay, I think you will start. How's everybody? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, good. So I'm going to share my screen. Uh, yeah. Okay. Just an indication. They all managed to log into the studio, Sentiment Analysis Studio, because this is another software that we use uh, for sentiment analysis. Personally, I find that it's quite good. So this is also another product of SES. Okay, so what I plan to do tonight is basically to focus on the second approach towards sentiment analysis, which is the rule-based. Okay, so in sentiment analysis, after the lecture last week, basically the mining of sentiments within the text. And we know that this is also something that can be very subjective, okay, because of we need to understand the context before we can analyze whether the sentiment is positive or negative. So in the text, it's a bit tricky, right? Because in a sentence may be negative, right, overall, but the document itself may be positive. So there's two levels, I mean, at least two levels of determining the sentiments of the text. One is at the document level. The other one, of course, is at uh, the sentence level. But overall, we also try to determine the sentiments of a general corpus. Okay, for example, I mean, we receive a feedback from customer, right? Uh, Maybe we receive a 1,000 feedback over a period of time. So just sometimes we just want to get a rough idea of whether that power of feedback that we receive is actually positive or negative, right? This is just a very high level kind of feedback that we want. Okay. So the rule base is actually, for personally, I find it much more useful than just the statistical modeling level, because that one is at the overall document level, corpus level, right? Uh, just a quick review. So now, in the sentiment analysis studio, allow us to analyze at two levels. One is the product level, the other one is the feature level. Now, when we say product level, we mean the overall, right? The corpus level. Uh, for example, I launched a TV, right? I have a new product, television. So I can generally find, okay, what's the sentiments at the product level? Or I can drill down to specific features and uh, of the TV. Okay, and actually that is actually more useful because overall people may like the product, like the TV, but they may like or don't like certain features of the TV. Okay, and that's where the producer will find useful get those kind of feedback so that they can improve on certain features or certain aspect of the product. Okay, so the features level normally we need to base because we need to define very specifically what attributes we are looking for, and for those attributes that we are looking for, what kind of definition constitute a positive feedback or negative feedback. Okay, we'll see that later. All right, so this is just a quick overview of the product. So you find that okay, in the maybe let me just open up and see, okay, for you to see. All right, so you can see that this is the interface of the SaaS.
Can I
So
interrupt for a while?
yes, yes,
From the TV product level, right?
yeah.
How do you find the feature level? Do you go through all the feedback to pick up the feature level, or do you have set domain specific knowledge in mind already?
You already have the specific knowledge in mind already. Yeah. So I mean, TV, you probably people will look for the size, look for the maybe the weight. You know what I mean? So the first cut of the feature is normally what you already know. Of course, you will do like other analysis, like for example, we do the topic extraction, right? So from the feedback, you can also do a topic extraction and then you identify the common feedback that people give from the topic extraction results, and then use that as a basis to define some of the features. Yeah.
Right,
So
thank you.
yeah. So normally, yeah, for product evaluation, we do more than just one sentiment analysis. Okay, uh, we can do one the topic extraction. So here, as I say, there are two ways to do it, right? You can see that we can do it at the stats level or at the rule-based level, right? See, yeah.
Stats is at document level only, right? Product level.
The stats is at the corpus level.
All
Okay.
document level.
Yeah, corpus level. For example, okay, right, I define a corpus, right? I think if you have followed, this is the last week. This is the last week lab work. Okay, when you define a corpus, for example, you can see my screen, right? So I define a corpus.
Yeah, but you have to group the separate directory for positive.
Yeah. I'm just
Manually you sort out, right?
yes, correct. So for example, I define a corpus called feedback. So the what happened is that the software will already define straight away give me the four levels of directories, positive, negative. So this positive, negative is for training, all right, for training purposes. All right, I will come back to this later on. So you can just delete that, right? So as I go along, I'll try to go back to the two and so you can see from here, right? Let's make it bigger. Okay. So we have to define the corpus. So yeah, you're right. Defining the corpus is that we really have to define, pick up the, for example, I have 1,000 documents, right? So normally certain percentage, maybe 5%, okay, 5% which consists of the positive and negative, and then you put them into the actual uh, positive and negative directory, right? So you have the positive and negative directory, right? So this positive and negative directory, these are the actual positive and negative documents that you actually have actually evaluated and put them there. So this is for training purposes, so that the model will know, okay, what do you mean by positive and what do you mean by negative, right? Okay.
The general rule is what? They say 1,000 corpus document, you pick 5%, it means it's 50, right? So 50,
Yeah.
25 positive and 25 negative.
No,
Manually,
50, 5, 5, 5,
50,
right? 5, 5.
50.
Yeah, yeah.
Then how about neutral one
No,
and unclassified one?
normally I don't bother about neutral because it will filter out anyway. Okay, later you will see lah. Because if it's very little, I mean neutral could be close to 1% positive or 10% negative. You see, so those kind of things will be actually will come out later on when you do the positive and negative. So I don't really have to bother about it lah.
Just say manually you sort, manually you filter out yourself, right? Classified document, positive you know, negative you know. Neutral means balance out. I say the TV is good, but there's no no thumb drive to insert the USB port. So there's
No,
good
you
and
don't.
bad, so balance out.
Yeah, you don't. Yeah, you can do that. You can do neutral is fine. But as a common practice, I mean, some people will do that, but I normally don't do that lah. You can of course provide sample of what is neutral, but again, it's very subjective. You see. Yeah. So
So
I
what's
rather
unclassified?
unclassified is a bit like neutral. Lor. I mean, it's, for example, you may have a text that is numbers, right? Numbers or symbols. You may some text inside got some sentence that got symbol.
Question mark, like that.
Yeah, all this. Yeah.
All right.
So normally I'll focus on these two lah, because the rest will sort out by itself, is it? Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so yeah, so as I say, this is the for training, so you actually have to really extract a certain percentage. So those documents you actually extracted, you don't use it for test anymore, right? The test is test remaining. Now, all of these documents that you actually put into positive and negative, a certain percentage will be used for validation. Okay, so it's not just for training, but for validation as well. And this one, the system will actually do it automatically. Okay, I will explain along the way because okay. So you classify each training document according to policy, then them into here, as mentioned before. Okay. All right. This is the just so when you create a model, right? When you create a model, when you try to build a stats model, you go through all these things. Basically, you can see that uh, what you need to set is all those that we use for text parsing, right? Tokenize, tokenizer, part of speech, and so on. Now extraction. So remember text, before we can do any kind of processing, whether it's sentiment analysis, topic extractions, or information retrieval, you need to go through the same processing, right? Stemming, uh, text parsing, text filtering, normalization, and all those things. Okay. So okay, so for example, a new model, for example, just for example. So I just say new model. Okay, normally we use simple. Actually, simple and advanced, not much of a difference. Okay, you can later I'll explain that in the slide as well. So you can see that, right? So in the new model, they will actually ask for the setting. I think, yeah. Sorry, I think this one they take the for corpus. Okay. So the all these setting are for text parsing, right? So when you build the stats model, so all these the same. This slide is for the explaining this one, right? Okay, this is to break the text in sentences, then the different part of speech, right? Noun phrase, just extracting the significant terms of nouns and all those things. Stop word.
I think we lost you. We lost you. I think VPN was something.
Yeah.
Is it for all domain? Is it all domain specific, or doesn't matter what corpus the document are you analyzing?
As long as
It's English, is okay.
as long as so I'm using two screen. I'm using two screen. It's one screen breakdown, then the other one. But the thing is, only one screen has the software.
I think we lost you again.
Okay, my apology. Yeah. Okay, I don't know why I always have when it comes to your class I have this problem. Actually I'm can you all hear me by the way now?
Yeah, now can hear. Next time I lost you.
Yeah. My day class is okay. Actually, I'm teaching every day the day class. My day class is okay. Somehow or other, the night seems to be okay. So just now I was saying that uh, okay. Let me just share this. That's why I prefer a recorded lecture. But this today's lesson is quite long. So it's quite hard to record. And also I prefer to, it's quite important lesson because you'll be doing it in your assignment, right? The final assignment. So I prefer to face to. So again, normally for here, when you build a model for stats, you just keep it as a default lah. Okay, default, keep it simple. Uh, so as you can see just now that whether you choose simple or advanced, there's actually not much of a difference. Okay. Now remember when you talk about text normalization, we are actually trying to build that term by document matrix. So remember, the question just now asked was whether is it domain specific. The answer is no lah. Okay, as long as text you process, you actually have to break the text into the bag of words, put them into a normalized term by document matrix, and then that becomes like the process transform data for any kind of analysis. All right, be it sentiment analysis, or be it information retrieval, or be it document classification and so on, right? So text parsing, text filtering, all those are basic to text processing, but data preparation phase, all right? Okay, so yeah, this is basic one. On to just to take note that the last point, that by default, 80% of documents are used for training and 20% for validation. Okay, so the validation, so by the time you build the model has already been validated. Okay, it's already been validated. So we don't really have to explicitly do the validation, just like what you did for your predictive, right?
Now you help us scoring the data set. Scoring.
Yeah, yeah, we'll come to that later. Okay, we'll come to that. Yeah. All right. So this is just a setting and so on. Okay. Now this is a different text normalization in the setting. Define your you have to define your text. Can you see this by your text normalization model? One of the setting that you have to do. Normally we'll just take the default lah. Take the default. If you choose any one of them, it's actually okay. Uh, so let me just explain a bit of the model. So the first two, smooth relative frequency and relative frequency, is actually based on uh, the weighted frequency, right? So normalize the term frequency by dividing by a normalization factor. So that is actually a weighted frequency kind of concept. Okay. This one is based on Poisson distribution. If you learn statistics, right, Poisson distribution actually calculates the probability of the occurrence of event within a specific time period. So so in the case of the text here, uh, within the confine of the corpus or the sentence, what is the probability of a word significantly occurring? All right, but here they use a twin probability model, lah. Okay, so the result of this will be probability, right? So the same thing, all this come up will be a probability kind of a figure. We don't have to worry too much about that because will cater for us.
Those are only four models only.
No, actually there are more, but in the software, four has provided lah. Okay, yeah, right. So okay, so you train the model and so on. So okay, so when you build the stats model, you will come out with this result. Okay, you'll come out with this result. Overall precision, I don't know whether you can see. Okay, overall precision, then positive precision and negative precision. So this is for the whole of corpus, right? Remember, stats model is for the corpus, all right? So we give you an overview. So for example, if let me see whether okay, let me just delete this model. Yeah. So based on last week example, right? Last week we have all these documents. So now if I run, okay, I've created this model. This is a model that I created, right, last week. So we can see that the setting all this, we use a base method. Percentage for training is 80%. Of course, the 20% is validation. Okay, this is the corpus that we define up here. Okay, you can see the corpus name. Okay, so this is the name of the model. Okay, the model. So the probability threshold here, actually by default is 0.5 lah. Okay, 0.5. Now what it means here is that, remember just now we say that the result from the model will give us a probability value. So this probability value will decide, this threshold value will decide whether okay, will decide whether it's going to be a positive or negative. Let me just run this thing first, and then I'll explain further. Run this model. Okay, I run this model. All right. So this is the result that we get. Okay, this is the result that we get. Let me see. This view. Okay.
Must click statistic and run.
Sorry?
Statistical then run.
Yeah, correct. Okay, so this is the test result they give it to me, right? You can see that this is a graphical form. Okay, the blue one is the positive, negative is, and so on, right? So what it means here is that this one is the same thing, right? This one is the same thing. So the overall precision is overall, okay, okay, you look at how they are calculated. Overall, it's based on the total number of documents, right? How many are actually correctly classified correctly, right? So remember, you have the confusion matrix, right? That you learn in predictive, false positive, true positive, and false positive, all those things. So the positive and negative are also calculated that way, right? Total positive, actually positive, but how many are actually done it correctly? So all these calculations are done by the system. So this is a pretty high accuracy. So when you classify a negative, the negative part is actually more accurate. But overall, the document will give you about 80% accuracy. But again, this is
What accuracy acceptable?
This is actually quite high. To me, 60 will be acceptable, than 60 and above. Yeah, maybe this one is a bit more academic. We purposely make it more obvious, right? But in the industry, if we get about 60, 70, I think that's actually a very good model. Okay. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. So anything, remember, there's this again, any model, there's this probability, this potential overfitting, right? So we just have to be careful. So that one, remember, it's based on action. Okay. Right. So okay. So that is a stats model. The stats model really give us a very overview only. That's why I say sometimes it's not. Okay, so we know that in this couple, generally they are more positive and more negative than positive. Okay, you can see different algorithms give us generally the same trend, right? Okay. So overall, Yeah. So now I want to, yeah, actually tonight is meant to focus on the rule base. Now, what is actually a rule base? Now, the word rule base tells us that we need to define rules, right? Rules. Now, remember in machine learning, we are talking about pattern recognition. So actually, by defining the rules, the pattern, we are looking for certain patterns in the text. Okay, the pattern in the text that tells us whether this text is what I'm looking for. For example, I'm looking for any text that refers to television. So I must define the rule so that I can catch all those words that is related to television. And for television, then what kind of text will tell me that the television is negative or positive? So I have to define a certain pattern of the text. Okay, if the pattern if for this pattern which catch my television, which is my product, and then for this pattern it tells me about the negative part of what is the negative sentiments for television. So I have to define all those patterns, right? So when you say rule based, we are refining those patterns. Of course, we are using language, right? Uh, so this is the overall concept of what do you mean by rule based. All right. So first of all, we define what we call the keywords. Now, if you look at the if you look at the rule base is a right. So if I right click, okay. So what is tonal keywords here? Tonal keywords are it comes from the word tone. So you define those words that are positive and negative that will apply throughout all the corpus, right? Throughout the corpus. For example, for this particular example, okay, we define the negative and positive by certain terms. Okay, for example, here, okay, negative word. I will explain the marker DDF later on, but negative words. So where is the negative word defined? It's defined here, right? Right, you can see that all these are negative words. Okay, so these are tonal keywords. I define as tonal keywords because this word is going to apply to absolutely negative, right? So this words doesn't depend on context. They are absolutely negative, regardless whether they occurs in positive documents or negative documents. So these are considered absolutely it applies to positive. Okay, is defined in uh, in this in this these called the adverb, adverb for example. So ADV, so ADV is defined here, right? So these are positive. So if I have very good, really good, absolutely lovely, right? So these are very positive words. So all these are words that are defined in the tonal because they are always, all these words are always positive, regardless of which context they're in. It's just like certain words like beautiful. Okay, beautiful is absolutely positive, but certain words are positive and negative will depends on the context in which they actually appears, and that's where you need to define at the feature level, at the feature level. All right. So
Let me
this
ask you
is
a question.
yes.
Just now the advert, is domain specific or you must go through the sample of the positive, the feedback, and then
Okay.
find out, or is it can use for any
Okay.
domain?
It can be domains specific, right? It can be domain specific, but you can see these are, of course, these are very generic, right? So, for example, if I'm,
There are more to this,
of course, there are more to this. There are more to it. It takes time to build up the so-called the dictionary, okay, there are more to this. So, so to answer your question, for example, I'm doing a corpus on food review. So, I mean, the dictionary will not give us the word shook, right? S-H-I-O-K, shook. Shook will never be defined in the dictionary, but we want it to be positive, so we can actually put it as a tonal key. You see what I mean? So you are right. So in a certain way, we need to know the business domain knowledge. But for tonal keywords, there are some very generic ones. Okay.
Instead of building yourself, is there any way we can import for
Yeah,
a
you
standard
can.
library?
Yeah, you can buy actually. You can buy and you can. Yeah, there are people who sell this, and I think there might be some free ones. Okay. Okay. Then after that, now the rules applies to, you can apply the rule base to define the tonal keywords. You can also apply the rules to intermediate entities. I already showed what do you mean by intermediate entities. For example, I already showed you just now, right? Okay, those entities are actually references lah, references. For example, this one, right? Okay, let's say for example, I look at this product feature weather, right? Okay, weather. Maybe I do it on the actual. Okay, let's look at the weather, right? Okay, the weather. Okay, what do you? So the weather, the definition, I only put one word lah. Okay, so when I don't have any other words that I can. Okay, so I define the positive at this. So I'll explain all these rules later on. But for example, I look at one of the positive or the negative pattern for weather is that there must be words that I can find in this intermediate entity. So this is negative, right? You put negative. This is defined by me, lah. All right. So what does this contain? So this one is actually found in the intermediate entity. So what is this? This consists of all these, right? So all these words. So it's like a reference, all right? And the immediate entity is a reference to the list of things that I can put all these words here, but it's going to be very messy. So I put them under a reference and then put this reference as an intermediate entity. Okay. You understand what I'm trying to say? Okay. Now I can also define my rules on the products and features. Okay, product and features. For example, this one. For example, this one camera. So what do you mean by camera? So my definition of camera, if this word Orion or Orion Creamer appears in the text, then this one I straight know that this is a camera. Okay, this refers to a camera. So what we are trying to do here is really, the computer is very dumb one. We must tell the computer or the software, okay, when you see a camera, just watch out for this, right? But you must tell them what is the definition of camera. So here we are defining the camera for, okay, we are defining the camera for the software to detect. So whenever they come to the text, they meet in the text, they meet Orion, or they know that this refers to the camera. Okay, and then if you look at here, the camera itself is a product, so I can define the feature. That means we are going down to the next level. For example, I want to define a feature called quality. Okay, so I will have positive and negative. So this is the negative definition of a work all this. So what I'm trying to say here is that, okay, maybe I use this as an example, right? Okay, for example, the product here is I think this one is a sports watch, all right? So I want to look at, for example, a certain feature. There's a feature in the what are the things that I want to, maybe one of the things that I want to find out is whether how do people find out about the price, right? The price. So how is the price of product? Is there a feedback? So I must tell the software, okay, what do you mean by price? So I select price, I look at the definition here. Okay. So anything that in the text that appears as dollars or money, then the software know that, oh, this is referring to the price of the product. Okay. So is it positive or negative for this feature? Then I define the positive pattern of this this feature, right? So the negative is defined. Okay, can you see that this is defined? Can you see this is product price, right? Product price. So I'm looking at product price. Product price is referring to this one, which is defined as any of these terms, right? Okay, I will come to all this later on, the sentence and all this. But what I'm trying to say here is that at this point, we can use the rule base to define the feature as well, right? Define the definition. What is the definition of product? What is the definition of feature? And so on. Okay. You understand what I'm trying to say? So if I add in another feature, for example, I add in another feature, right? You can see, okay, let me just repeat again. Okay, I add in another feature. Okay, maybe I want to okay, I want to find out the feedback about the color of the feature, right? So I put color, right? Put color. So I must tell the the software what do you mean by color. So maybe when I come across word like red, or maybe words like the look, right? Or words like blue, because maybe my product has only red and blue color that I know of. Okay, then I know it refers to the color, or some other, or look, maybe the look. Take it as the customer refer to the color, and then what is positive? Okay, it could be if the customer make the remark like, okay, I like it very much. Okay, if and then negative could be mean ugly, color is ugly, or
So
maybe
these are not rules, you know.
no, these are rules. These are very simple rule called classifier. Yeah, you can see I can select different rules. You understand? So this is one of the basic rule called classifier. We'll be going through all this later on. I'm just giving you a simple example. Okay, so a classifier. So if this is a very simple rule. So if in the text I come across the word which is defined red, then I know that this refers to the color. And within the same sentence, say for example, I also come across the word here, right, ugly, then I know that this one refers to the color.
What happened is it not ugly? The sentence is not ugly.
Yeah, so you have to use more complicated rules, lah. Yeah, that's why we come. I'm just giving a very basic. Yeah, so we have other rules to cater for this this kind of situation. Okay. So what I'm trying to say here is that what we are trying to do here is that we can define the rules for the feature as well. See? So for each feature, you have to define what is the definition, what is the positive for that feature, what is the negative for the feature, based on the rules that you define. Okay, so if you in the midst of it, for example, let's talk about privacy. Okay, positive. In the midst of it, if you need to use entity, because there's a big list. There's a big list. I can define this big list as an intermediate entity by putting a reference here. Okay. So I can just in over. Okay lah, never mind. Just leave it. So let's talk about the different kind of rules. Okay. Just now the classifier rule is a very simple one. Basically, if you see a matching word, right? Matching word, you can that will be your definition. So remember, it can apply to tonal keywords. It can apply to the product level, the product definition of feature level.
Case sensitive or not sensitive?
Sorry? Yes, it's case sensitive. It's case sensitive. It's case sensitive. Okay. So classifier rule is very simple. As we mentioned just now, the capability is just to match specific words or strings. So for example, the example given here. Okay, this rule consists of a word or a string. Okay, when the match occurs with this rule, the entire string is highlighted. Okay, this rule is typically used for definition of tonal words. The tonal words just now, the overall words. So for example, I define my classifier as, okay, the rule is like that. So what will measure? Sorry, it's not case sensitive, right? I stop the other one. So this one, if the text, if all these examples here appears in the text, then this one will be highlighted.
It's not case sensitive.
It's not case sensitive. Yeah, my apology. So it's a very simple. It's just a matching word. So this text here can appear in the feature length for feature or for entities or for owner, right? So it's a matching. So this is very simple. The next one is actually the concept rule. The concept rule, you can see that the capability has expanded. Okay, you only have the classifier rule that only match, but concept rules will actually include what classifier can do, plus all these four different capability. We'll just go through briefly. So concept rule. So for example, this one, concept rule. Okay, we look at the first feature, expanded form. So supposing my body is this, right? I have GO, right? So this one can be, the symbol here represents a different expansion, right? It can be going, it can also be the past, the plural or the past tense of, of go, all right? So the meaning remains the same. So it will include the present tense, the singular, the plural, and past tense. Okay.
Break also broken.
Yeah. No, broken will not, because broken is not a noun. Broken is a adverb. Okay. So if I, for example, break.
Break is a verb,
No, I take a break. It's a noun, right? So this is supposed to be a noun. Right? So the N here stands for noun. The N here stands for noun.
You don't put N, that means can be broken. Can include broken.
Yes. Yeah. Here it's it will include anything, no? That, yeah. So here you are looking for specifically for noun, right? So you put N here as noun. Sorry. So another example would be, this is verb to be, right? Verb to be, all right? So this one will give you more patterns to catch. but the
I
patterns
thought
are around.
wasn't was negative, you know.
Say again.
We was it. But wasn't is a negative of was, you know.
We are not talking about the sentiments now. All right, the sentiments will be evaluated by the rule. We are now catching the words. So whether this is positive or negative, we won't know. We are just looking at the at the pattern that we are trying to catch, and then decide whether this pattern is positive or negative. That will be defined by the positive and negative rule that we find later on. You get what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So the concept rule can also apply to something like this, that you want a noun, but the noun must precede by a certain words, right? Certain words. So it's a reference to part of speech, right? So for example, I have this, I want to catch the pattern that the pictures are, so the A stands for adjective, okay? So words, so sentence that the pictures are clear will be captured. Okay, pictures are blurry will be captured. This, so it's not case sensitive, right? And so on. So this is what concept rule. Concept rule give us the expanded form and also give us the ability to catch patterns that related to part of speech. Okay. Now, it also give us a way to reference and define entities. Now, let's now remember. Okay, let's look for example this example. Now here we have a sentence like the AF is great, the autofocus is awesome. Okay, we have feedback like this. But actually, what happened is that this AF and autofocus, they are actually defined as an entity, and this entity is defined this way. So the concept rule we actually should write is focus A. Okay, focus A. So what is focus? The focus is defined by this. Okay, focus is an entity that we define, but focus refers to this definition. So when you, so we want to catch patterns, focus double dot A. That means some, so it's either AF adjective or autofocus adjective, all right? So this pattern, okay, so that's why this one is okay. So autofocus was terrific. So autofocus is under the entity focus, and then adjective, the adjective is terrific. Okay, right.
One autofocus with face, the other one without space.
Sorry?
One auto separate word, auto space focus, the other autofocus.
No lah, this one is actually together. Yeah, it's actually together. You can even define separate if you want. You can add in another definition on the focus entity
This
list.
is tedious, you know. By doing that, it's very tedious.
Sorry?
It's quite tedious work, man.
Yeah, normally because you are building model, so once the model is built up, it's just like your text, right? It's just like when you build a model, you need to put in all these things. And once the model is built up, the rest subsequently all those documents of the similar nature, you can just pass it through. But of course now with the AI can help us to build some of these rules. But the starting, the first cut before the AI can help us is we still have to do the manual work, right? And a lot of times it depends on the business domain. That's why if you go and ask people to build a model, it's actually very expensive because a lot of work has been. But once the model is created, yeah, the benefit is that you you can just auto process it, for subsequent documents of similar nature.
All
Now
this
it gives
All these words, autofocus, all these things you can get from text extraction, topic extraction, right?
Yes, yes. All these, all these, all these terms actually. Now, what we should actually be doing before is that you can, after you've done the topic extraction will give you some of the key terms, right? Some terms have more weight than others. You should use some of those terms for your definition and for your positive and negative definition. So this is what I want you all to do actually in your final coursework assessment. In the final coursework assessment, you'll be given a corpus, and then
They can be thousands of them, you know. But of course, the top weightage one we know lah, but there are many.
Yeah, you just have to use your judgment, the judgment, and the judgment is probably quite easy because the weight of the term is given to you. So we just want to focus on the important words. So what you do in sentiment analysis is you want to supplement the results from the topic extraction, for example. Okay. So I want to talk about this marker. Now, why is this marker? This marker is used to define entity. I think probably I've done something just now again. Never mind, I'll just show you. So for example, let's talk about this design. Okay, when I talk about design, the definition is this: graphics, animation, all those things. Okay, for the positive tone of okay.
How define?
Sorry. So okay, you can see that in the I use the concept rule, all right, concept rule for the design positive. Okay, now so I define this entity, right? What do you mean by this, all right? So positive adverb. So this is defined in the over here.
Positive adjective.
Yeah. So these are the words that is positive adjective. Okay. So so any words that appears in this list will match with the product design. Product design refers to this. Okay. Product design. What is product design defined as? We define as animation, graphics, right? So our animation. So supposing in a sentence, or in a sentence, okay, here means same sentence. So let's look at this example here. So what it means here is that any words that appear in the product design, which is these words, which is some of these words, all right. So say animation. Say the word appears animation. So I know that it refers to design. Then if any words appear in the same sentence as animation, any of those words that defined here, all right, positive. Okay, like beauty. Okay, animation is smooth. The animation is fun, and so on. Okay, and so this will be a positive. Will be a positive for the sentence now. Okay, for this under this feature design.
But
Right.
the weight you still choose as 1. You don't increase the weight. The weight is still 1.
The default is 1. So if based on the business domain knowledge, you feel that okay, maybe the weight of this particular rule should be 2.5. You can see the next one, right? 2.5. Then I increase it. All right. So like this rule that is called the predicate rule, I set to 2.5 because I feel that if I got this pattern, it means actually it's quite significant for the document, for the analysis. Okay. So So again, it depends very much on the judgment. Of course, as I mentioned many times, the business domain knowledge will come in. Okay. So that's what I mean by, so this is how you make use of the dev marker, underscore dev marker, and it can applies to any, it applies to any of the anything, right? Any of this section. Okay, it applies to any of these section. You can define your definition here as well. You can see I can define either positive or negative. Okay, so the rules can apply to anywhere. These are further example. Okay, here so I apply the camera. This one is specified under the product. When I put camera focus, so remember this is camera is a product, focus the feature. So this one refers to the feature in the feature focus under camera. So for example here, right? Can you see this one? Product design. This is referring to the reference of the definition of the feature. Product under product. Can you see that product design? So if I click another one, so you can see that product service. All right, product service. So what is product service? Product service defined in the definition here. So you go to the definition and see, okay, it's referring to developer, and so on, right? Okay. Or you can define in the tonal keywords positive, tonal keyword negative. Now what does that mean? So you look at the tonal keywords, for example. Okay, not very good example. So so don't really have. Okay. But you can define that as well inside the tonal keywords. Remember, tonal keywords is applied to the whole corpus, all right? Okay, let me just okay. I think this one I've gone through a few times. Okay, let's look at this one, right? Let's look at this one. So this is still under using this marker, right? Okay. So if I define that rule, this rule as a this depth marker, a good value for something. So in other words, these words must precede the definition for camera. So what is camera? Camera is defined as orange glimmer. So things like good value for an orange, okay, because this is the orange is defined here. Then this will be match. This will match, okay. Or orange glimmer, good value for an orange glimmer camera here. This will also be match. All right. The same thing. I love my whatever define here. So like I love. Okay. This is further definition. This one is another one. Okay. This one is anything after, right? The camera focus. So this is the feature, right? I'm looking at feature. The camera focus is defined as okay, AF, autofocus, and so on. Okay, that's how you talk about the space, right? Maybe this one is also defined here. So if I have a text like autofocus, well, okay, it will be matched. Or AF match well, you will also be matched. Okay, same thing as this one. Same thing. I like whatever autofocus, matching. So this is just defining a certain pattern that I'm looking for to be very specific, so that I can be sure that it's a positive. This particular example. Okay. Okay, we can also use it on tonal tonal keywords are positive. So what is tonal keywords positive? Tonal keywords positive, say tonal, the keyword positive, under positive, I define as wonderful, great, fantastic, and good. Okay. So if I have sentence like, no, Orion is fantastic or wonderful or good, then this will be positive, right? This pattern will be positive. Okay, any question?
Keyword, the weight also is set at default 1.
Yeah, you start with default one. So as you remember, in any model building, it's an iterative process, right? So if you feel that or if the model builder feels that based on the business domain expert feedback, this this pattern is very important, so we increase the weight. This pattern of the rule is important. Later we'll look at how it's being scored, right? So, okay, let me continue. So we have concept rules, right? Now normally okay, let me just finish this concept rule. Concept rule and concept quite similar. Except we use what we call the underscore C marker. So again, the same thing. For example, in this one here, we have Orion C marker glimmer. Now here we are defining in the product level, right? Product camera level. Okay. So if I have Orion glimmer, okay, it, basically it's just the pattern again, the same pattern. Okay. So if I put uh, C marker, I love my camera. That means I'm looking for this pattern. I love. Okay, I love followed by my. So very specific. Very specific. Okay. So this is a. So we have to be careful. Sometimes we depends on what kind of document. Sometimes we have to be very specific. Sometimes we cannot be too specific. Otherwise we become too tight. All right. Yeah. Okay. So it's a partial match. But the partial match must. Okay. Let me. So this C concept also allow us to a partial match. Now here it says you can write rules to return a match on a partial term, but on condition that the full term is matched somewhere in the document. So for example, this one, right? Orion Glimmer already appears somewhere. So the software already know that yeah, actually when you talk about Glimmer, you're actually referring to this one. Because there's a thing already appears earlier. So this is okay. So when we talk about Grimmer, actually it's talking about Orion. So but this one here rejected because there's no prior reference. Okay. So you could write a product rule match to Grimmer only if the full match also appears somewhere. Okay. Like sometimes a text appear many times, a significant text appear many times. So you want to have a sort of abbreviation or something like that. Okay, so you can write abbreviation for that frequently occurrence text. Okay. All right. Okay. So that's about almost all. The other thing I want to talk about is Boolean operators. Now you will know what is Boolean operators, right? They're the and. If A and B means the condition A and condition B must be fulfilled. Or if I or A or B, okay, so condition A or condition B is fulfilled, is fine with me. Okay, so we can also define rules and then we combine the rules so that they can either be an condition or all condition, and then we can also define certain thing like the okay, the distance, this one stand for distance. And then the N here stands for the number of words from one another. Okay. So for example, okay, I want to I know there's a relationship with these two words, but these two words must occur within a certain distance. Certain distance must occur within a certain distance. If they're outside this distance, then probably they're not related. Okay, let me so I only mention some of these because these are more used, and then this one is referring to arguments of facility. So let's see whether there's an example here. Uh, so for example, okay, the AND operator. Okay, so you see an AND here. That means this rule and this rule must fulfill. Okay, must be fulfilled in the document, right? Both in the same document. So for example, I have a sentence value. So here we are talking about price and good value, but to say that price only have good value, they must occur in the same sentence. So I put an and condition here. Okay, an and condition. I couldn't believe the price. The price.
So don't have to be the same sentence.
No, this is a document. Same document. Yeah, we need the same document. Right, don't have to be the same sentence.
What point if the example is it's not a good value for price, then it won't.
Okay,
Then
it's not a good value.
positive. Then it becomes still positive. That means
So
something
you have
wrong.
to define the not. You have to define the pattern not. Yeah. Yeah. Remember, if there's a not, say for example, it is not a good value for the price. Remember, this not will be defined already in the toner already, right? The toner keywords. So remember when we try to evaluate the sentiments of a sentence of a document, it's not just the rule, but remember we also need to apply the tonal keywords because the tonal keywords is a global kind of definition. So we apply the tonal keywords definition plus the specific feature kind of a definition for positive and negative. Okay, and then they will decide the scoring for the sentence. We'll talk about that later on, right? We have an example for that. Okay, so this one here, okay, this is means the same sentence. Okay, the word, this is a classifier rule. This is a concept rule. These two words must appear in the same sentence, not the same, not the same document. Okay, not the same document, but same sentence. The quality is good, right? The quality is very good.
But the third one is cannot.
Yeah, so the third one cannot. Third one will not be catched. So it depends on how tight you want. So if you that is okay, then you should use you just use the end. Yeah, you don't specify so tight. You get what I mean? So
it's quite intensive work.
yes. When you build a model, yeah, as I say, no matter how machine is dumb, even artificial intelligence is still dumb. That's why it's called artificial intelligence, right? Artificial intelligence will not help you if you did not define or it will take a long time to build a good results if your initial model is lousy, right? Yeah, so because artificial requires an initial starting model to learn. So, okay, this one we use the distance tree, right? So what does underscore tree, what does that mean? It means that, okay, these two words, focus, then whatever you define as a slow, must occur within the same sentence, right? Uh, three terms away from one another. Anything further than that, you will not be catch. For example, this one, the camera was actually very slow. So we have focus and slow, right? So this is okay because it's only one word away, right? Okay, this one also okay. The focus and slow is 2 words away, right? Uh, this one is how many words away? 1, 2. Is 4. The slow is at the 4th word,
Oh,
right? Can you see that? At the 4th word. It must be within the 3 words. Within the first, second, and third word. So this one will not be
second
there.
sentence is 3 words.
Yeah, because 1, 2, 3 ma. 1, 2, 3. This one is 1, 2, 3, 4. Can you see that? Right. So this one why is not
Doesn't make
catch?
sense now. This one is delivery is slow, focus is nice. So this one is neutral actually.
No,
But
but
catch
this one will
is
not be catch because it's not you define as a within the it must be within the same distance, right? Sorry. Maybe don't need within the same distance. Uh
this rule will
within
catch.
yeah,
This rule will catch.
yeah, it will catch. Okay. So but my point is that we don't really need to use all. Normally the common one that we use is and distance and sentence because if you use some of them are very tight. Okay. Uh so So Boolean is to because Boolean is to help us to have more option, more condition. Sometimes there are different cases you want to capture. You can use some of these Boolean operators. The predicate rule I seldom use, but basically they are seldom. They are basically okay. But we'll just run through. See, at least one it help us to actually uh, specify the context lah, or rather, let me just read this. Okay. Predicate rules are context markers that are used to locate terms in specific words. Maybe I just show you by example, it'll be easier. Uh, okay, it's actually about the same, all right? For example, I define this is a predicate rule, all right? So we are looking for this concept. So the good here is defined somewhere, right? The quality is defined as long as they are in the same sentence. If you put a sentence here, they will be of course the same sentence, right? So this will be captured. This will be captured. Okay, but if you just put an n, it means this code condition. Now, this underscore one, O N E, and underscore two, these are just the way to define predicate rule, all right? Because predicate rule can be anything. Can be, you can just put any under, you can just put any alphabets basically, all right? You can just put any alphabets. Or not just one alphabet, you can move more than one alphabet like this one, right? 3 alphabets. Okay. So like this one here, just now we mentioned about not, right? You can define this distance here, not 3 distance away. Okay, you will not be disappointed. Not and disappointed must occur within the 3 distance so that you know this is negative. Okay. Any question? We haven't finished yet. We still got quite a number of slides to cover. So basically in your coursework, the final coursework, you'll be required to do this, all right? The feature analysis, sentiment analysis at the feature level. So you may have to use some of these rules. That's why I say
When the course will be released.
the course will be released next week. I'm still I have sent for more or less sent for review and approval. Okay. Uh, so probably it will be released next week, maybe middle of next week. Yeah. So the coursework, the final coursework will be okay. The final coursework will be we probably the deadline is tentative is at the moment 11th of June, and then there's a presentation for your final uh your your final coursework after you have submitted. I will talk about it next week. Okay, the next lesson on, or once you have talk about the presentation, because we don't have exam. Normally, there's no final coursework, but because of the current situation, we replace the final coursework by a final exam. I don't know whether that's better or not. I'm not too sure. The only advantage is that maybe for from your perspective is that the last the last topics the last topic on the big data technology will not be examined. Okay, but if it's examined, it will normally be examined. So this one here, this is a regular expression, right? This one is regular expression. Normally we I think you've seen it before, right? It's just a way to formulate a certain pattern. So for example, uh, if I put bracket A uppercase, then uppercase, I'm looking for any character between A and Z, uppercase, and so on. Okay. But you don't really have to memorize all these things, right? You have to memorize all these things. Okay, only when you need, then you look up for it, right? So just to mention again that all these rules applies to tonal keywords, at the feature level, the positive, and the feature level negative, right? And the intermediate entities is actually very useful. Okay, let me just show one more time. Right, all this will help you find your reference list. Okay, the reference list that you can use it. You can use it anywhere, either in the tonal keyword, right? Okay, like this one is used in tonal keywords. It's also used in other parts of the feature definition for positive and negative, for positive, right? Okay. So the 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 lab for last week seems to be this one, right? Is to give you an example of how to find those rules. That's why I say the lab exercise is actually quite important for you to actually do it. Plus today one, right? Today one. Okay, let me just end up by giving you a rough idea how are the weights of the sentiments being calculated, right? Uh, you don't really have to know, right? But it's good to know what happened behind the result that's presented to you by the software. Uh, so the rule weights, every rule carries a weight. That means the weight defines the significance of that rule. Okay, so by default, the weight is 1. I think the classifier rules are probably the simplest. So for example, in this case, so the word terrific with an exclamation mark is defined as a very significant word. That's why it's given a weightage of 5, right? So you can have a concept rule, uh, and out of those 5 concept rules you define, you find that actually this, if you manage to catch this pattern, okay, for their positive definition of a certain feature, then that that weight probably is higher than the rest. Okay. So again, this is really very subjective and really based on the experience of the expert.
I think it's subjective because American they use the word terrific more, but some local Asian they won't use such strong
Yeah,
words.
yeah, yeah. Some are cultural, right? As I mentioned just now, some are cultural. Like for example, I always use the word shiok, shiok. And when you eat something, you say, oh, really shiok. When you mention shiok, it's more than just good, right? So it's something that's very weighty, right? So you may want to give a higher weightage. It's very cultural as well. Yeah. So how do we score the sentiments, right? This is good to know what's happening behind it. So when a rule-based model is applied, the sentiment scores are calculated for each document, right? So if there are 1,000 documents, the corpus applies for each document. Okay, and then decide whether it match positive or negative. So matches to negative. If it matches the negative, the neutral rules of product or feature, or there'll be zero score because the product and feature that you define, the definition doesn't really have a positive or negative. Okay, let's look at an example, then you'll be easier. Okay, look at this one, right? Okay, let's say about this one first. So the rule is this. So for positive, sum up every measure. Every positive, you just apply whatever the okay. Remember, you assign the weight to every rule. So if that rule is negative or positive, you just multiply by the weight. Okay. So the weight is only calculated for positive and negative, the neutral and the definition, because you don't really need the need for them. So you can see that, for example, the definition. The, I mean, the definition don't really have a weight. So for the rule, they have different kind of weights. Okay. Yeah. So depend which rule is more important. So if you encounter a matching, then is for that sentence, then you just multiply 1.5. Okay, 1.5 times 1, or negative, you just multiply, okay, 5 for this one. Okay, so this is how it's being calculated. For example, most of the document includes each of the measures listed below. Okay, so supposing you have a document and it, so uh, for positive total word is 1, and there's one mesh is just times 1. Okay, and the camera product happens to have a rule that is very weighty, 3. So we just 3 times 1, so 3 is the weight. Neutral, no weight. The positive rule, there's a positive rule that give you 2. So you just add them up together. Yeah, you just add them up together.
Can we reduce the camera negative rule to a lower weightage?
Yeah, it's up to you. Okay.
Because,
Yeah, yeah. So you decide, you decide. But how do you decide? As I mentioned just now, right? You take the cue from, for example, you have done topic extraction, right? So if that feature is commonly mentioned, and you sort of scan through, there's more negative than positive, then maybe you want to readjust your weight. Okay. So in your coursework, you must relate in your coursework, maybe must do topic extraction. So wherever possible, you should relate to analysis together to give you a better insight. Right?
relate topic extraction with sentiment analysis.
Yes, correct. Okay, so the last part, of course, is of test documents. So after I've done, right, after I define my corpus, and then I build my stats rule, I build my, then of course I want to test, right? Okay, so I define where's my corpus, right? Uh, Test. So okay, okay, I okay, I point to this directory, right? Now, although I put here positive or negative, actually these two directories that I created, they are really a mixture. Okay, these are test documents lah. They are not really positive or negative, right? So I can choose anything, right? So I can so these test documents are those documents that I really want to test. Okay, so I can just say okay, I run a stats model. Okay, so I choose this model. Sorry, I think I wrong. I think I should. Okay, I for example, I want to test all the documents in this directory, right? So I just select the directory and just okay, I apply the test model. So generally, the sentiment for this all the document in this directory is unless more negative. It so happens is more negative and it happens to be negative directory. Now I don't have to create. I don't have to really put a positive negative. I can put any directory and then run. Okay, let's run with the documents here with a rule base. If I run rule base, I probably see let me see it. So you can see the rule base give you more insight, right? Right. So for example, I run overall, I get this negative, but what really is negative? So the negative comes from where? You can see the negative comes from this feature, right? Feature. Okay. This you can see that it comes from this feature. The more positive one is the design. You can see that even though it's the design, right? You can run. Now I can also test I can just choose one document, right? For example, this one I choose document. Now, do you think this? Okay, look at this sentence here. I hope you can see on the screen. This sentence says that is really great product. Okay, do you think this is actually very positive, right? So let's run it say in the rule base or run stats. Let's see what you get. So if I run a stats model, it will treat this one as a single document corpus lah. So it's well you say it's positive, right? Which is quite true, right? So if I run a rule base for this sentence, the same sentence, let's see how it comes up. Yeah, you will remember rule base give you the probability, right? The probability. Okay, the probability that is positive is about 65%. Okay, I will of course at the sentence level I'm okay to choose the stats model lah. But if I want to do the whole sentiment for the whole corpus, I should use the more reliable.
Okay, look, the third text document, the third one. Third one is negative.
This one.
Yeah. You
Okay.
run.
We think it's negative lah, but based on our definition, it could be positive, right? Okay. Okay, the result is negative. Okay. Now you can also see that the probability to be positive is almost zero. The probability to be positive is almost 0.01. That means it's negative, right? Okay, I don't know whether if I run the base, the rule base says that it is positive.
It is positive, no, but then it's because I think the weightage are negative.
Yeah, yeah. So that's why I say is for one document probably a stats will be better. Yeah. So again, depends on your definition, right? Depends on the definition.
You see the third document, you see, doesn't it go back? You see, hands down the best product, actually love, although a lot of positive sentiment term, right? But
Yeah.
because not updating, still love the product, works great. It's not updating, the
So
word
this is
not
negative,
updating.
right? So it depends on what is the weight, no? So it depends on the weight. Because it may be positive, 1, and then maybe the weight here is very high. So overall it's still negative. You understand what I'm trying to say? So different rules carry different weights. So for a sentence, they will add up all the weights and then decide the probability whether it's positive or negative. And that's where you remember at the beginning you define the threshold, right? When you create a model, define the threshold for normally the default is 50%. I think it's quite safe. Okay. So this is probably what I want to share about the rule base. Yeah, I know it's a rule base is quite tough. Many students find it very tough, but I think it's a matter of practice lah. So in the exercise today, the lab work, the practice is more get used to the rules. So you find that we only give you about a few documents. You just test at the document level. It's not the rules. Yeah. Okay. It's been quite a long lecture. So any question, anything that you want to ask? So you can do your lab now, and then yeah, anything you can check out with me.
Yeah, okay, thanks.